Book 11. Scarce had the rosy morning raised her head above the waves and left her watery bed. The pious chief whom double cares attend for his unburied soldiers and his friend, yet first to heaven performed the victor's vows. He bored an ancient oak of all her boughs. Then on a rising ground the trunk he placed, which with the spoils of his dead foe he graced. The coat of arms by proud Messenius worn, now on a naked snack in triumph borne, was hung on high and glittered from afar, a trophy sacred to the god of war. Above his arms fixed on the leafless wood, appeared his plumy crest besmeared with blood. His brazen buckler on the left was seen, truncheons of shivered lances hung between, and on the right was placed his corslet bored, and to the neck was tied his unavailing sword. A crowd of chiefs enclosed the godlike man, who thus conspicuous in the midst began. Our toils, my friends, are crowned with sure success. The greater part performed achieved the less. Now follow the cheerful to the trembling town. Press but an entrance and presume it won. Fear is no more, for fierce Messenius lies, as the first fruits of war a sacrifice. Turnus shall fall extended on the plain, and in this omen is already slain. Prepare in arms, pursue your happy chance, that none unwarned may plead his ignorance, and I at heaven's appointed hour may find your warlike ensigns waving in the wind. Meantime the rites and funeral pomps prepare, due to the dead companions of the war. The last respect the living can bestow, to shield their shadows from contempt below. That conquered earth be theirs for which they fought, and which for us with their own blood they bought. But first the corpse of our unhappy friend to the sad city of Æneid sent, who, not inglorious in his age's bloom, was hurried hence by too severe a doom. Thus, weeping while he spoke, he took his way, where new in death lamented Pallas lay. Achates watched the corpse, whose youth deserved the father's trust, and now the son he served, with equal fate, but less auspicious care. The attendants of the slain his sorrow share. A troop of Trojans mixed with these appear, and mourning matrons with disheveled hair. Soon as the prince appears they raise a cry, all beat their breasts and echoes rend the sky. They rear his drooping forehead from the ground, but when Aeneas viewed the grisly wound, which Pallas in his manly bosom bore, and the fair flesh they stained with purple gore. First melting into tears, the pious man deplored so sad a sight, then thus began. Unhappy youth, when fortune gave the rest of my full wishes, she refused the best. She came, but brought not thee along to bless my longing eyes and share in my success. She grudged thy safe return the triumphs due to prosperous valor in the public view. Not thus I promised when thy father lent thy needless succor with a sad consent, embraced me porting for the Etrurian land, and sent me to possess a large command. He warned, and from his own experience told, our foes were warlike, disciplined, and bold. And now perhaps in hopes of thy return, rich odors on his loaded altar spurn, while we with vain officious pomp prepare to send him back his portion of the war. A bloody, breathless body which can owe no farther debt but to the powers below. The wretched father o'er his races run shall view the funeral honors of his son. These are my triumphs of the Latian war, fruits of my plighted fate and boasted care. And yet, unhappy sire, thou shalt not see a son whose death disgraced his ancestry. Thou shalt not blush, old man, however grieved thy Pallas no dishonest wound received. He died no death to make thee wish too late. Thou hadst not lived to see his shameful fate. But what a champion hast the Ausonian coast, and what a friend hast thou, Ascanius, lost. Thus having mourned, he gave the word around to raise the breathless body from the ground, and chose 1,000 horse, the flower of all, his warlike troops to wait the funeral, to bear him back and share Evander's grief, a well-becoming but a weak relief. Of oaken twigs they twist an easy bier, then on their shoulders the sad burden rear. The body on this rude horse is borne, strewed leaves and funeral greens the bier adorn. All pale he lies and looks a lovely flower, new cropped by virgin hands to dress the bower. Unfaded yet, but yet unfed below, no more to Mother Earth or the green stern shall owe. Then 2 fair vests of wondrous work and cost, of purple woven and with gold embossed, for ornament the Trojan hero brought, which with her hands Sidonian Dido wrought. One vest arrayed the corpse, and one they spread over his closed eyes and wrapped around his head, that when the yellow hair in flame should fall, the catching fire might burn the golden coal. Besides the spoils of foes in battle slain, when he descended on the Latian plain, arms, trappings, horses by the hearse are led. In long array the achievements of the dead. Then, pinioned with their hands behind appear the unhappy captives marching in the rear, appointed offerings in the victor's name, to sprinkle with their blood the funeral flame. Inferior trophies by the chiefs are borne, gauntlets and helms their loaded hands adorn, and fair inscriptions fixed and titles read of Latian leaders conquered by the dead. Aeneid on his pupil's corpse attends, with feeble steps supported by his friends, pausing at every pace in sorrow drowned. Betwixt their arms he sinks upon the ground, where growling while he lies in deep despair, he beats his breast and rends his hoary hair. The champion's chariot next is seen to roll, besmeared with hostile blood and honorably foul. To close the pomp Æneid, the steed of state, is led the funeral of his lord to wait. Stripped of his trappings with a sullen pace, he walks, and the big tears run rolling down his face. The lance of Pallas and the crimson crest are borne behind the victor sees the rest. The march begins, the trumpets hoarsely sound, the pikes and lances trail along the ground. Thus while the Trojan and Arcadian horse to Pallantean towers direct their course, in long procession ranked, the pious chief stopped in the rear and gave a vent to grief. The public care, he said, which war attends, diverts our present woes, at least suspense. Peace with the mains of great Pallas dwell, hail her holy relics and their last farewell. He said no more, but inly though he mourned, restrained his tears and to the camp returned. New suppliants from Laurentum sent demand a truce with olive branches in their hand. Obtest his clemency and from the plain beg leave to draw the bodies of their slain. They plead that none those common rights deny to conquered foes that in fair battle die. All cause of hate was ended in their death, nor could he war with bodies void of breath. A king, they hoped, would hear a king's request, whose son he once was called, and once his guest. Their suit, which was too just to be denied, the hero grants, and father thus replied: O Latian princes, how severe a fate in causeless quarrels has involved your state, and armed against an unoffending man who sought your friendship ere the war began. You beg a truce, which I would gladly give, not only for the slain, but those who live. I came not hither but by heaven's command, and sent by fate to share the Latian land. Nor wage I wars unjust, your king denied my proffered friendship and my promised bride. Left me for Turnus then should try his course in arms to conquer or to die. My right and his are in dispute, the slain fell without fault or quarrel to maintain. In equal arms let us alone contend, and let him vanquish whom his fates befriend. This is the way, so tell him, to possess the royal virgin and restore the peace. Bear this message back with ample leave, that your slain friends may funeral rites receive. Thus having said, the ambassadors, amazed, stood mute a while and on each other gazed. Drances, their chief, who harbored in his breast long hate to Turnus and his foe professed, broke silence first, and to the godlike man with graceful action bowing thus began. Auspicious prince, in arms a mighty name, but yet whose actions far transcend your fame. Would I your justice or your force express, thought can but equal, and all words are less. Your answer we shall thankfully relate, and favors granted to the Latian state. If wished, success our labor shall attempt. Think peace concluded, and the king your friend. Let Turnus leave the realm to your command, and seek alliance in some other land. Build you the city which your fates assign. We shall be proud in the great work to join. Thus Drances, and his words so well persuade the rest empowered, that soon a truce is made. 12 days the term allowed, and during those, Latians and Trojans, now no longer foes, mixed in the woods for funeral piles prepare to fell the timber and forget the war. Loud axes through the groaning groves resound, oak, mountain ash, and poplar spread the ground. First fall from high, and some the trunks receive. In low wains with wedges some they cleave. And now the fatal news by fame is blown through the short circuit of the Arcadian town, of Pallas slain by fame just before his triumph on distended pinions bore. Rushing from out the gate the people stand, each with a funeral flambeau in his hand. Wildly they stare, distracted with amaze. The fields are lightened with a fiery blaze that cast a solemn splendor on his friends. The marching troop with their dead prince attends. Both parties meet, they raise a doleful cry. The matrons from the walls with shrieks reply, and their mixed mourning rends the vaulted sky. The town is filled with tumult and with tears, till the loud clamors reach Evander's ears. Forgetful of his state, he runs along, with a disordered pace and cleaves the throng. Falls on the corpse, and groaning there he lies, with silent grief that speaks but at his eyes. Short sighs and sobs succeed, till sorrow breaks a passage, and at once he weeps and speaks. O Pallas, thou hast failed thy plighted word, to fight with caution, not to tempt the sword. I warned thee, but in vain, for well I knew what perils youthful order would pursue. That boiling blood would carry thee to fall, young as thou wert in danger's roar to war. O cursed essay of arms, disastrous doom, prelude of bloody fields and fights to come, horrid elements of unauspicious war, vain vows to heaven and unavailing care. Thrice happy thou, dear partner of my path, whose holy soul the stroke of fortune fled. Precious of ills, and leaving me behind, to drink the dregs of life by fate assigned. Beyond the goal of nature I have gone, my Pallas late set out, but reached too soon. If, for my league against the Ausonian state, amidst their weapons I had found my fate, deserved from them, then I had been returned a breathless victor, and my son had mourned. Yet will I not my Trojan friend upbraid, nor grudge the alliance I so gladly made. 'Twas not his fault my Pallas fell so young, but my own crime for having lived too long. Yet, since the gods had destined him to die, at least he led the way to victory. First, for his friends he won the fatal shore, and sent whole herds of slaughtered foes before. A death too great, too glorious to deplore. Nor will I add new honors to thy grave, content with those the Trojan hero gave. That funeral pomp thy Phrygian friends designed, in which the Tuscan chiefs and army joined. Great spoils and trophies gained by thee they bear, then let thy own achievements be thy share. Even thou, O Turnus, hadst a trophy stood, whose mighty trunk had better graced the wood, if Pallas had arrived with equal length of years to match thy bulk with equal strength. But why, unhappy man, dost thou detain these troops to view the tears thou shedst in vain? Go, friends, this message to your lord relate. Tell him that if I bear my bitter fate, and after Pallas' death live lingering on, 'tis to behold his vengeance for my son. I stay for Turnus, whose devoted head is owing to the living and the dead. My son and I expect it from his hand, 'tis all that he can give or we demand. Joy is no more, but I would gladly go to greet my Pallas with such news below. The morn had now dispelled the shades of night, restoring toils when she restored the light. The Trojan king and Tuscan chief command to raise the piles along the winding strand. Their friends convey the dead funeral fires. Black smoldering smoke from the green wood expires. The light of heaven is choked and the new day retires. Then thrice around the kindled piles they go, for ancient custom had ordained it so. Thrice on horse and foot about the fires are led, and thrice with loud laments they hail the dead. Tears trickling down their breasts bedew the ground, and drums and trumpets mix their mournful sound. Amidst the blaze their pious brethren throw the spoils in battle taken from the foe. Helms, bits, embossed, and swords of shining steel. One casts a torget, one a chariot wheel. Some to their fellows their own arms restore, the falchions which in luckless fight they bore. Their bucklers pierced, their swords bestowed in vain, and shivered lances gathered from the plain. Whole herds of offered bulls about the fire, and bristled boars and holy sheep expire. Around the piles a careful troop attends, to watch the wasting flames and weep their burning friends. Lingering along the shore till dewy night, new decks the face of heaven with starry lights. The conquered nations with like pious care, piles without number for their dead prepare. Pour in the places where they fell or lay, and pour or to the neighboring fields conveyed. The corpse of kings and captains of renown, borne off in state, are buried in the town. The rest, unhonored and without a name, are cast a common heap to feed in the flame. Trojans and Latians vie with like desires, to make the field of battle shine with fires, and the promiscuous blaze to heaven aspires. Now had the morning thrice renewed the light, and thrice dispelled the shadows of the night. When those who round the wasted fire remain, perform the last sad office to the slain. They rake the yet warm ashes from below, these and the bones unburned in earth bestow. These relics with their country rites they grace, and raise a mound of turf to mark the place. But in the palace of the king appears a scene more solemn and a pomp of tears. Maids, matrons, widows mix their common moans. Orphans, their sires, and sires lament their sons. All in that universal sorrow share, and curse the cause of this unhappy war. A broken league a bride unjustly sought, a crown usurped which with their blood is bought. These are the crimes with which they load the name of Turnus, and on him alone exclaim. Let him who lords it o'er the Ausonian land engage the Trojan hero hand to hand. His is the gain, or lot is but to serve. 'Tis his just the sway he seeks he should deserve. Then Druncus aggravates and adds with spite. His foe expects and dares him to the fight. Nor Turnus wants a party to support his cause and credit in the Latian court. His former acts secure his present fame, and the queen shades him with her mighty name. While thus the factions' minds with fury burn, the legates from the Aetolian prince return. Sad news they bring that, after all the cost and care employed, their embassy is lost. That Diomed refused his aid in war, unmoved with presence and as deaf to prayer. Some new alliance must elsewhere be sought, or peace with Troy on hard conditions bought. Latinus, sunk in sorrow, find too late a foreign son is pointed out by fate, and till Aeneas shall Lavinia wed, the wrath of heaven is hovering o'er his head. The gods he saw espoused the juster side, when late their titles in the field were tried. Witness the fresh laments and funeral tears undried. Thus, full of anxious thought, he summons all the Latian senate to the council hall. The princes come, commanded by their head, and crowd the paths that to the palace led. Supreme in power and reverenced for years, he takes the throne and in the midst appears. Majestically sad, he sits in state, and bids his envoys their success relate. When Venulus began, the murmuring sound was hushed and sacred silence reigned around. "We have," said he, "performed your high command, and passed with peril a long tract of land. We reached the place desired, with wonder filled, the Grecian tents and rising towers beheld. Great Diomede has compassed round with walls the city which Agrippa he calls, from his own Orcus name. We touched with joy the royal hand that raised unhappy Troy. When introduced our presence first we bring, then crave an instant audience from the king. His leave obtained, our native soil we name, and tell the important cause for which we came. Attentively he heard us while we spoke. Then, with soft accents and a pleasing look, made this return: "Ausonian race of old, renowned for peace and for an age of gold, what madness has your altered minds possessed to change for war hereditary rest, solicit arms unknown, and tempt the sword, and needless ill your ancestors abhorred? We, for myself I speak, and all the name of Grecians who to Troy's destruction came, omitting those who were in battle slain, or borne by rolling Simius to the main. Not one but suffered, and too dearly bought, the price of honor which in arms he sought. Some doomed to death, and some in exile driven, outcasts abandoned by the care of heaven. So worn, so wretched, so despised the crew, as even old Priam might with pity view. Witness the vessels by Minerva tossed, in storms the vengeful Capharean coast, the Euboean rocks, the prince whose brother led all armies to revenge his injured bed, in Egypt lost. Ulysses with his men have seen Charybdis and the Cyclops den. Why should I name Idomeneus in vain, restored to scepters and expelled again, or young Achilles by his rival slain? Even he, the king of men, the foremost name of all the Greeks and most renowned by fame, the proud revenger of another's wife, yet by his own adulteress lost his life, fell at his threshold, and the spoils of Troy, the foul polluters of his bed enjoy. The gods had envied me the sweets of life, my much loved country and my more loved wife. Banished from both I mourn, while in the sky transformed to birds my lost companions fly. Hovering about the coasts they make their moan, and cuff the cliffs with pinions not their own. What squalid spectres in the dead of night break my short sleep and skim before my sight? I might have promised to myself those worms, mad as I was when I, with mortal worms, pursued against immortal powers to move and violate with wounds the Queen of Love. Such arms this hand shall never more employ. No hate remain with me to ruined Troy. I war not with its dust, nor am I glad to think of past events, or good or bad. Your presence I return, whatever you bring, to buy my friendship, send the Trojan king. We met in fight, I know him, to my cause. With what a whirling force his lance he tossed. Heavens, what a spring was in his arm to throw. How high he held his shield and rose at every blow. Had Troy produced two more his match in might, they would have changed the fortune of the fight. The invasion of the Greeks had been returned, our empire wasted and our cities burned. The long defense the Trojan people made, the war protracted and the siege delayed, were due to Hector's and this hero's hand, both brave alike and equal in command. Aeneas not inferior in the field, in pious reverence to the gods excelled. Make peace, ye nations, and avoid with care the impending dangers of a fatal war. He said no more, but with this cold excuse refused the alliance and advised a truce. Thus Venulus, concluding his report, a jarring murmur filled the factious court, as when a torrent rolls with rapid force and dashes o'er the stones that stop the course. The flood, constrained within a scanty space, roars horrible along the uneasy race. White foam and gathering eddies float around. The rocky shores rebel to the sound. The murmur ceased, then from his lofty throne the king invoked the gods and thus begun. I wish, ye Latins, what we now debate had been resolved before it was too late. Much better had it been for you and me, unforced by this our last necessity, to have been earlier wise than now to call a council when the foe surrounds the wall. O citizens, we wage unequal war with men not only heaven's peculiar care, but heaven's own race, unconquered in the field, or conquered yet unknowing how to yield. What hopes you had in Diomedes lay down, our hopes must center on ourselves alone. Yet those, how feeble, and indeed how vain, you see too well, nor need my words explain. Vanquished, without resource, laid flat by fate, factions within, a foe without the gate. Not but I grant that all perform their parts with manly force and with undaunted hearts. With our united strength the war we waged, with equal numbers, equal arms engaged. You see the event, now hear what I propose, to save all friends and satisfy all foes. A tract of land the Latians have possessed, along the Tiber stretching to the west, which now Rutulians and Araukins till, and their mixed cattle grace the fruitful hill. Those mountains filled with forests, that lower land, if you consent, the Trojan shall command. Called into part of what is ours, and there, on terms agreed, the common country share. There let them build and settle if they please, unless they chose once more to cross the seas, in search of seats remote from Italy, and from unwelcome inmates set us free. Then twice 10 galleys let us build with speed, or twice as many more if more they need. Materials are at hand, a well-grown wood runs equal with the margins of the flood. Let them the number and the form assign, the care and cost of all the stores be mine. To treat the peace, 100 senators shall be commissioned hence with ample powers. With olive the presents they shall bear, a purple robe, a royal ivory chair, and all the marks of sway that Latin monarchs wear, and sums of gold. Among ourselves debate this great affair and save the sinking state. Then Dracus took the word, who grudged long since the rising glories of the Daunian prince. Factious and rich and bold at the council board, but cautious in the field he shunned the sword. a close capeller and tongue valiant lord. Noble his mother was, and near the throne, but what his father's parentage unknown, he rose and took the advantage of the times to load young Turnus with invidious crimes. Such truths, O king, said he, your words contain, as strike the sense, and all replies are vain. Nor are your loyal subjects now to seek what common needs require, but fear to speak. Let him give leave of speech, that haughty man, whose pride this unauspicious war began, for whose ambition, let me dare to say, fears that abhor, though death is in my way, the plains of Latium run with blood around. So many valiant heroes bite the ground, dejected grief in every face appears, a town in mourning and a land in tears, while he, the undaunted author of all harms, the man who menaces the gods with arms, yet after all his boasts forsook the fight, and sought his safety in ignoble flight. Now, best of kings, since you propose to send such bounteous presents to your Trojan friend, and yet a greater at our joint request, one which he values more than all the rest. Give him the fair Lavinia for his bride. With that alliance let the league be tied, and for the bleeding land a lasting peace provide. Let insolence no longer awe the throne, but with a father's right bestow your own. For this maligner of the general good, if still we fear his force, he must be wooed. His haughty Godhead we with prayers implore, your scepter to release and our just rights restore. O cursed cause of all our ills, must we wage war unjust and fall in fight for thee? What right hast thou to rule the Latian state, and send us out to meet our certain fate? 'Tis a destructive war from Turnus' hand, or peace and public safety we demand. Let the fair bride to the brave chief remain. If not, the peace without the pledge is vain. Turnus, I know you think me not your friend, nor will I much with your belief contend. I beg your greatness not to give the law in others' realms, but beaten to withdraw. pity your own, or pity our estate, nor twist our fortunes with your sinking fate. Your interest is the war should never cease, but we have felt enough to wish the peace. A land exhausted to the last remains, depopulated towns and driven plains. Yet, if desire of fame and thirst of power, a beauteous princess with a crown in dower, so fire your mind in arms, assert your right, and meet your foe who dares you to the fight. Mankind, it seems, is made for you alone. We but the slaves who mount you to the throne. A base, ignoble crowd without a name, unwept, unworthy of the funeral flame. By duty bound to forfeit each his life, that Turnus may possess a royal wife. Permit not, mighty man, so mean a crew should share such triumphs and detain from you the post of honor, your undoubted due. Rather, alone your matchless force employ to merit what alone you must enjoy. These words so full of malice mixed with art, inflamed with rage the youthful hero's heart. Then groaning from the bottom of his breast, he heaved for wind and thus his wrath expressed. You drunkards never want a stream of words, then when the public need requires your swords. First in the council hall to steer the state, and ever foremost in a tongue debate, would our strong walls secure us from the foe, ere yet with blood our ditches overflow. But let the potent order declaim, and with the brand of coward blot my name. Free leave is given him when his fatal hand has covered with more corpse the sanguine strand, and high as mine his towering trophies stand. If any doubt remains who dares the most, let us decide it at the Trojans' cost, and issue both abreast where honor calls. Foes are not for to seek within the walls, unless his noisy tongue can only fight, and feet were given him but to speed his flight. I, beaten from the field, I forced away, who but so known a dastard dares to say, had he but even beheld the fight, his eyes had witnessed for me what his tongue denies. What a heap of Trojans by this hand were slain, and how the bloody Tiber swelled the main. All saw, but he, the Arcadian troops, retire in scattered squadrons, and their prince expire. The giant brothers in their camp have found. I was not forced with ease to quit my ground. Not such the Trojans tried me when enclosed. I singly their united arms opposed. First forced an entrance through their thick array, then glutted with their slaughter freed my way. 'Tis a destructive war, so let it be. But to the Phrygian pirate and to thee. Meantime proceed to fill the people's ears with false reports, their minds with panic fears. Extol the strength of a twice conquered race. Our foes encourage and our friends debase. Believe thy fables, and the Trojan town triumphant stands, the Grecians are overthrown. Suppliant at Hector's feet Achilles lies, and Diomed from fierce Aeneas flies. Say, rapid Orpheus with awful dread runs backward from the sea and hides his head. When the great Trojan on his bank appears, for that's as true as thy dissembled fears of my revenge. Dismiss that vanity, thou drankest or below a death from me. Let that vile soul in that vile body rest. The lodging is well worthy of the guest. Now, royal father, to the present state of our affairs and of this high debate. If in your arms thus early you divide, and think your fortune is already tried, if one defeat has brought us down so low, as never more in fields to meet the foe, then I conclude for peace, 'tis time to treat, and lie like vassals at the victor's feet. But oh, if any ancient blood remains, one drop of all our fathers in our veins, that man would I prefer before the rest, who dared his death with an undaunted breast, who calmly fell by no dishonest wound, to shun that sight and dying gnawed the ground. But if we still have fresh recruits in store, if our confederates can't afford us more, if the contented field we bravely fought, and not a bloodless victory was bought, their losses equaled ours, and for their slain with equal fires they filled the shining plain. Why thus unforced should we so tamely yield, and ere the trumpet sounds resign the field? Good unexpected, evil unforeseen, appear by turns as fortune shifts the scene. Some raised aloft, come tumbling down amain, then fall so hard they bound and rise again. If Diomed refuse his aid to lend, the great Messapus yet remains our friend. Tolumnius, who foretell events, is ours. The Italian chiefs and princes join their powers. Nor least in number nor in name the last, your own brave subjects have your cause embraced. Above the rest, the Volscian Amazon contains an army in herself alone, and heads a squadron terrible to sight, with glittering shields and brazen armor bright. Yet, if the foe a single fight demand, and I alone the public peace withstand, if you consent, he shall not be refused, nor find a hand to victory unused. This new Achilles, let him take the field, with faded armor and Vulcanian shield. For you, my royal father and my fame, I, Turnus, not the least of all my name, devote my soul. He calls me hand to hand, and I alone will answer his demand. Drunkes shall rest secure, and neither share the danger nor divide the price of war. While they debate, nor these nor those will yield, Aeneas draws his forces to the field, and moves his camp. The scouts with flying speed return, and through the frightened city spread the unpleasing news. The Trojans are descried in battle marching by the riverside, and bending to the town they take the alarm. Some tremble, some are bold, all in confusion arm. The impetuous youth press forward to the field. They clash the sword and clatter on the shield. The fearful matrons raise a screaming cry. Old feeble men with fainter groans reply. A jarring sound results and mingles in the sky, like that of swans remurmuring to the floods, or birds of different kinds in hollow woods. Turnus the occasion takes and cries aloud, "Talk on, ye quaint arrangers of the crowd, declaiming praise of peace when danger calls, and the fierce foes in arms approach the walls," he said, and turning short with speedy pace, cast back a scornful glance and quits the place. Thou, Volusus, the Volscian troops command, to mount and lead thyself, O Ordian band. Messapus and Catulus, post your force along the fields to charge the Trojan horse. Some guard the passage, others man the wall. Drawn up in arms, the rest attempt my call. They swarm from every quarter of the town, and with disorder they haste the rampires crown. Good old Latinus, when he saw too late the gathering, born just breaking on the state, dismissed the council till a fitter time, and owned his easy temper as his crime, who, forced against his reason, had complied to break the treaty for the promised bride. Some helped to sink new trenches, others aid to ram the stones or raise the palisade. Hoarse trumpets sound the alarm. Around the walls runs a distracted crew the last labor course. A sad procession in the streets is seen of matrons that attend the Mother Queen. High in her chair she sits, and at her side, with downcast eyes, appears the fatal bride. They mount the cliff where palace temple stands, prayers in their mouths and presents in their hands. With censers first they fume the sacred shrine, then in this common supplication join. O patroness of orms, unspotted maid, propitious, hear and lend thy Latin's aid. Break short the pirate's lance, pronounce his fate, and lay the Phrygian low before the gate. Now Turnus arms for fight, his back and breast, well-tempered steel and scaly brass invest. The cushions which his brawny thighs enfold are mingled metal damasked o'er with gold. His faithful falchion sits upon his side, nor casque nor crest his manly features hide, but bare to view amid surrounding friends, with godlike grace he from the tower descends. Exulting in his strength he seems to dare his absent rival and to promise war. Free from his keepers thus with broken reins, the wanton courser prances o'er the plains, or in the pride of youth overleaps the mountains, and snuffs the females in forbidden grounds, or seeks his watering in the well-known flood, to quench his thirst and cool his fiery blood. He swims luxuriant in the liquid plain, and o'er his shoulders floats his waving mane. He neighs, he snorts, he bears his head on high, before his ample chest the frothy waters fly. Soon as the prince appears without the gate, the Volscians with their virgin leader wait his last commands. Then with a graceful mien lights from her lofty steed the warrior queen. Her squadron imitates and each descends, whose common suit Camilla thus commends. If sense of honor, if a soul secure, of inborn worth that can all tests endure, can promise aught or on itself rely, greatly to dare to conquer or to die, then I alone, sustained by these, will meet the tiring troops and promise their defeat. Ours be the danger, ours the sole renown. You, general, stay behind and guard the town. Turnus awhile stood mute with glad surprise, and on the fierce Vergil fixed his eyes. Then thus returned, O grace of Italy, with what becoming thanks can I reply? Not only words lie laboring in my breast, but thought itself is by thy praise oppressed. Yet rob me not of all, but let me join my toils, my hazard, and my fame with thine. The Trojan, not in stratagem unskilled, sends his light horse before to scour the field. Himself through steep accents and thorny brakes, a larger compass to the city takes. This news my scouts confirm, and I prepare to foil his cunning and his force to dare. With chosen foot his passage to foray, and place an ambush in the winding way. Thou with thy volscians face the Tuscan horse, the brave Messapus shall thy troops enforce. With those of Tibu and the Latin band, subjected all to thy supreme command. This said, he warns Messapus to the war. Then every chief exhorts with equal care. All thus encouraged, his own troops he joins, and hastes to prosecute his deep designs. Enclosed with hills a winding valley lies, by nature formed for fraud and fitted for surprise. A narrow track by human steps untrod leads through perplexing thorns to this obscure abode. High over the vale a steepy mountain stands, whence the surveying sight the nether ground commands. The top is level, an offensive seat of war, and from the war a safe retreat. For on the right and left is room to press the foes at hand from afar distress, to drive them headlong downward and to pour on their descending backs a stony shower. Thither young Turnus took the well-known way, possessed the pass, and in blind ambush lay. Meantime, Latonian Phoebe from the skies beheld the approaching war with hateful eyes, and called the light-foot Opis to raid her most beloved and ever trusty maid. Accept, great goddess of the woods, he said, sent by her sire this dedicated maid, to where she flies a suppliant to thy shrine, and the first weapons that she knows are thine, he said, and with full force the spear he threw. Above the sounding waves Camilla flew. Then, pressed by foes, he stemmed the stormy tide, and gained by stress of arms the farther side. His fastened spear he pulled from out the ground, and the victor of his vows his infant nymph unbound. Nor after that in towns which wolves enclose would trust his hunted life amidst his foes, but rough in open air he chose to lie. Earth was his couch, his covering was the sky. On hills unshorn or in a desert den, he shunned the dire society of men. A shepherd's solitary life he led, his daughter with the milk of mares he fed. The ducks of bears and every savage beast he drew, and through her lips the liquor pressed. The little Amazon could scarcely go, he loads her with a quiver and a bow, and that she might her staggering steps command, he with a slender javelin fills her hand. Her flowing hair no golden fillet bound, nor swept her trailing robe the dusty ground. Instead of these, a tiger's hide overspread her back and shoulders fastened to her head. The flying torch she first attempts to fling, and round her tender temples tossed the sling. Then, as her strength with years increased, began to pierce aloft in air the soaring swan, and from the clouds to fetch the heron and the crane, the Tuscan matrons which each other vied, to bless their rival sons with such a bride. But she disdained their love to share with me the sylvan shades and vowed virginity. And oh, I wish, contented with my cares of salvage spoils, she had not sought the wars. Then had she been of my celestial train, and shunned the fate that dooms her to be slain. But since, opposing heaven's decree, she goes to find her death among forbidden foes, haste with these arms and take thy steepy flight, where with the gods averse the Latins fight. This bow to thee, this quiver I bequeath, this chosen arrow to revenge her death. By whatever hand Camilla shall be slain, or of the Trojan or Italian train, let him not pass unpunished from the plain. Then in a hollow cloud myself will aid, to bear the breathless body of my mate. Unspoiled shall be her arms and unprofaned her holy limbs with any human hand, and in a marble tomb laid in her native land,